thing with Franciscan formation is that we're always called to be stretched, to step outside of our comfort zone, to go where we would never go, to do what we would never do. It's no wonder then that we were asked to go on mission, to step outside of our world to go to another. Last week, 5 student friars were asked to go to Nicaragua for 10 days, to encounter another culture, to work and to give ourselves. What we intended to do was to build a school, to help those we would meet. What we found out was that there was much more to a Franciscan mission than simply giving of ourselves.
Living conditions reminded me of the early Friars and St. Francis. I know there was one place they were staying where they all were just assigned a space on the floor with their names written above their heads to remind each person whose space it was. So it was very close quarters. Oh. Very good.
Do we all have beds?
Well, we have 4 beds and 6 people.
6 people. You know, I'm not okay with that.
So... Holly, you can stop. We're moving the women to the first 2 doors.
Get out of our rooms.
Get out. Don't get cooties on our stuff.
The bathrooms and the showers were challenging. We had 18 people, more or less, living there and sharing 4 toilets and 5 showers.
Certainly using bathroom facilities that are outdoors was new. Not only that you could hear what other people were doing, but also the bugs, there was nothing to keep them out. So if they wanted to share a stall with you, well, you had no choice.
Sometimes we wouldn't have water, so you'd have to wait for the water to come back on. And then it's just very uncomfortable, you know, when you've got 5 open-air bathrooms kind of right next to each other, and you've just got to sort of deal with that.
But I think in that way it helped shake us out of our comfort zone and really put us in a different space, both mentally and physically, to appreciate the world in a different way.
Ciudad de Rio is a really pretty city. A lot of painted buildings, a lot of poetry from Ruben Darío on the walls. It was well kept after. You could tell people cared about the city. Their gates, their windows, everything seemed to be clean.
When I think of the city of Dario, what first comes to mind is the color. I loved the colors of the city. You go to Manhattan, or where everything is kind of a uniform gray, or DC, where there's a lot of white. In Dario, it was vibrant colors. There were pinks, there were greens, there were yellows, there were blues, both on the buildings themselves and especially in that park that was in the center of the town square.
The worksite was great. It was us working with a bunch of people from the neighborhood nearby, with a bunch of kids who were either in the school and wanted to just come out and help us, or kids in the neighborhood who came over, and I thought it was great the way everything worked out. Just being able to work closely with members of the community and to be led by members of the community. It wasn't us, you know, just going in there and doing what we wanted to do. We were consulting every day with Mason, local bricklayers. So they were the ones who were instructing us. It wasn't us going in and doing everything. It was listening and learning.
We were working with them. The children who were going to benefit from the school were out there with us, kind of experiencing the whole thing. We became a part of their family, they became a part of ours.
As a student friar, I do most of my work in my head and not with my hands. So it was really refreshing to get back outside and to work with our hands and to actually build something. We talk a lot about in the Franciscan charism the importance of the ministry of presence, of being there for people, of just being a calming presence, the presence of Christ. And there's a great deal of truth to that. But there's also a great deal of truth in actually building something by the work of your hands.
I never thought that I would be making concrete, much less in the middle of Nicaragua. But for me, it was a really good experience. I'd never realized, I guess, how much goes into concrete. grabbing the sand, the two different types of sand, and opening the bag and mixing it all together, and then remixing it, and then pouring the water and stirring it all together. It's a lot of work. But something so simple as, just mixing the concrete, that helps to build a school for children. And I guess I'd never pictured concrete as so important before.
It helped me to realize, or not to at least to recognize the work that many people do every single day, and even here in the United States.
My father had worked in the cement workers union for all of his life. It's how he supported our family. And I realized that I never once went with him to his work site to mix concrete, and I never saw how he made concrete himself. That made me really sad in one respect. On the other hand, it made me realize the importance of mission, that sometimes it takes going a couple of thousand miles away from your home to see those same things back at home anew and with new eyes.
It also gives you an insight to what the reality of immigrants is here. Just a snapshot and not the full, but it does, I think, engender in you compassion.
Certainly, even though the crux of what we were supposed to do was to build this school, a very needed thing for this community, really it was, I won't say a small component, but it wasn't as large a component of the experience as many of us thought.
One of the reasons is to have a deeper cultural experience.
Our job as missionaries was to encounter Christ in another culture, in another place.
We can get so caught up in the idea that we're on mission, so we're here to do a job. And if we get caught in that mentality, we forget our context, that we're actually in a different culture. And so being able to go on these excursions, both to Matagalpa and then to the Selva Negra, it just gave us a broader perspective of what Nicaragua is like.
When people from the United States goes there, or goes to any other different culture, help us to appreciate other cultures, to appreciate, different way of thinking and doing things.
When you live in the same place for a long period of time, you get used to it. You don't see the presence of Christ in the everyday things. Whereas when you go on mission, everything is new, everything is exciting, everything stands out and jumps alive. So it's much easier in that respect to see Christ in all people, places, and things that you encounter.
The tortilla making. You're invited into a home. And that to me is unique. You get to see how the people live and get a piece of their daily life.
The process of making a tortilla and of selling them afterwards is very much a communal experience. People wait online together to buy them. They talk to each other while they wait for their tortillas to be made. And for me, that was just a very powerful metaphor about what our church is, what the body of Christ is. We gather around this simple piece of bread, but it's there that we tell our stories, we share our joy. That's the focal point of the day, of their lives. And the more I think about it, the more that very simple, mundane act of making a tortilla took on huge significance for me and for that culture.
Because one of the things we come and we give, but we receive far more. And being willing to have people give us these experiences is part of being in a relationship.
We had a night where not only were we served dinner, but we had experts explaining to us the whole gastronomical spectrum of Nicaragua, how the meals are made, why, how it ties in with the resources they have and what they like to eat, and how it's different according to the region you're in. I found that very interesting, and the food was delicious.
For me, that first evening in Ciudad de Rio, when we had the opening ceremony, for me that was incredible. The people came out, youth mostly, performed music and danced, and the dancing was just gorgeous.
I loved watching the children perform and watching them sing and watching them dance.
Dance was a very important part of my life as a child and in my early teen years. So to watch these young kids perform and look so professional and kind of so proud, it just made me remember, oh yeah, I used to like this.
But then when they started to pull us up onto the floor to dance and everything, it was as if, we're from different cultures, but we were sort of united in this dance, and we were having fun, and for me that was one of the most incredible experiences of the week. just everybody out there having fun. It didn't matter if you spoke Spanish, you didn't speak. Everybody was just there having a good time. And it was such a great way to build community and to just learn about the culture.
And everybody got out there, even people who I thought probably wouldn't, but no one held back.
I hate dancing, and so that was definitely outside my comfort zone. But part of the experience of being on mission is to partake in the culture, and that's what I was doing.
I did cheat at getting out of the big circle, in some ways because I was just embarrassed and hate being put on the spot. In another way too, I didn't want to be singled out. I'm much happier kind of working as a group with my brothers and with the lay ministers of Christ than I am standing out by myself. So that's part of the reason. I also didn't want to look foolish.
Wow. Look at these two. Hard bodies. Wow, you guys are good. Did you work for Calvin Klein?
You know, I think about the sense of minority. You know, most of us in the province are English speakers, and we work in an English-speaking world. Well, you go there, and many of our people don't have the language ability. So for the first time, they understand what an immigrant deals with when you go to another culture. When you're forced to communicate, you who may have a graduate degree are forced to communicate on a second grade level, and how that humbles you.
Hola. 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 Hola.
Puppets are a quick and easy way to overcome any language barrier, any sense of awkwardness or confusion. Just having a puppet on your hand opened the kids up. They immediately knew that I was ready for play. We immediately could laugh at something in common. We could have fun together, even though we couldn't communicate directly because of the language. And for me, that was a great joy, to be able to engage those children and to just have a good time with them.
Just to watch him run around with the kids seemed just so entertained. They seemed to just enjoy the fact that somebody was willing to play with them. Somebody thought ahead enough to bring props, and it was just adorable watching him run around chasing these children with a puppet of a donkey.
I think the trip helps me to realize about my vocation, about my future ministry, and how youth ministry is something important.
One of the things that impacts me, though, is, especially watching the Friars, is the ability to become childlike, because I think that is huge for Francis. You know, Francis was playful. He was many other things, but he had that ability to be like one of God's little ones and to see the world with awe and wonder. And I think when you get and you play with little kids and you see their joy, it becomes tangible and you can't help it. You know, then we gather at night and we play ourselves. It is a huge part of discovering laughter and smiles and just to be able to go off into the world with a sense of awe and wonder and see the world differently.
I think the biggest thing that makes this Franciscan is the fact that we all shared this together as brothers and sisters.
They put this, you know, Latino music, merengue and salsa. We just, you want to dance? And yes, and we started to dance, and it was a very, you know, happy moment. I didn't care who was watching or something, and we were there just like a family enjoying time.
I can't let you win. 1, 2, 3, comienza.
Oh, he's easy for me. I'm stronger than you.
To say I felt less as we were friars on mission and more that we were the body of Christ on mission. The longer we were there, for me, the more barriers were broken down between ordained and lay or religious and laity. We all just became one body of Christ going through this world together, travelers on the road together.
We were doing many things because we were a group not only diverse in age, but in backgrounds and cultures.
People find out that they have a deep hunger for community. You know, we are the most connected generation in the history of the world. We're also the most lonely. because there is a shallowness to a lot of relationships. We kind of skim across the surface of it. But there, because of the 10 days that we spent together, praying together, playing together, taking care of one another, working side by side, you get to know people on a different level. And because we are sharing in the settings that we have created and the ones that God created, relationships are formed. And the fact that we are doing something together, we are making this world a better place together, I think it's the reason we do church. It's to be inspired by the Word, to be called to a deeper relationship with God in the form of other people.
Lands, we all got to like hop over seats and push through. Because we have a 45-minute connection.
Yeah, right.
Should be no problem.
People tend to do that anyway.
I know.
Fit right in.
The other thing is the sense of adventure. I think that's a huge piece of our faith. You know, we talk about, you know, the Eucharist as being the center of our life, and it is, but it launches us out there, outside our comfort zones, to be willing to be stripped of lots of things. And that's another thing that makes it Franciscan. You know, part of the formation that we do is we talk about what are some of the characteristics of Francis. You know, his courageousness, his willingness to let go of things, his dream of becoming a knight, his fear of lepers, his wealth, his power, his family. Well, what does it open him up for? And then as we go through this week, we talk about what we've been stripped of, but what has it opened us up for? And the folks that come back from these trips oftentimes are the folks that are most willing to create something new, because they've been stretched outside their comfort zone and they found how rich the experience can be.
We're all called to mission, I think, in some respects, to bring the good news of Jesus Christ to everybody, whether it be in this country or in another country.
It's about minority, it's about fraternity, it's about experiencing poverty on some level, it's about the stripping, it's about community and mission, it's about making a difference in the world, it's about adventure, it's about being childlike. And I think that's one of the things that these trips recapture. It's the sense of a deep sense of community that does things together, that sacrifices for one another, that takes care of one another when someone is sick, that works with the poor, that wants to make a difference in the world.
We were only in that country for a week. We maybe got up 2 levels of bricks around the building and painted some of the building, not all of it. We were not there when the foundation was laid, and we will not be there when the roof is put on and the doors are open for school. We played a very, very small part in a much larger picture. There was a group coming after us on Monday who will pick up where we left off. Those children will forget our names in 1 week. And that's very humbling to know that we didn't make a huge impact. We didn't change the world in some monumental way, but we were there for a small moment of time. And that sense of the smallness of what we did is very humbling, and I think is very Franciscan in that humility.
Guayaba, cordillera helada, a tierra verde y lluvia tropical. Huele esa pradera y eterna primavera, huele esa futuro y libertad.
Be sure to subscribe to the channel by clicking here. You can get all the new videos right when they come out. Like this one, where I answer the top 10 questions I get asked as a friar. Or this one, a candid interview about my formation in life as a friar. Also, be sure to check out my blog here at breakinginthehabit.org.